Prison. Am I better off in prison? Health-wise, yes. A bed to sleep in, yes. Food. Last year was the worst year of my life. It all started around Christmas. My girlfriend dumped me, then my stepmom died. That was New Year's Eve. And my dad, he just gave up. April, May. I don't remember. He just gave up. And I'd lost my mum a few years before that. I lost nearly everyone. I started drinking heavily, 3 or 4 bottles of whiskey a day. I'd been drinking since I was 9 years old, but I'd been off the drink for 10 years. I hadn't been in prison for 20 years. But last year, I got arrested, nearly 30 times. One time, I woke up in St. Thomas's Hospital. I don't know how I got there. Said they'd found me face down in a pond in St. James's Park. But I don't remember that. I remember being in the park, in the pond. I was wading out in it, right up to my chest. But I remember thinking it didn't smell right. Like something was off about it. Not stagnant, but as if there was something shouldn't be in it. I remember thinking, nothing could live in this water. After they found me, I was in the hospital 2 or 3 days. Then I was dismissed. I started walking up to Trafalgar Square because I was homeless. Then, when I was halfway across Jubilee Bridge, I just jumped. I was sinking down to the bottom of the Thames, taking my clothes off as I went. I didn't dive in. I went down flat, so I hit the water face on. It broke my sternum. It was the most painful thing I've ever known in my life. You know, I used to be a good swimmer. Swam a lot, at Portadown swimming baths. I swam for my school, swam for my town, swam for my county, swam in the All-Ireland Championships. And I did the Mourne Wall Walk. Do you know what that is? It's like a marathon over the mountains, but you walk it. I ran it when I was 15. I was a family secret. I'm the eldest of 10, but when I met my half-brothers and sisters, they didn't know who I was. My dad used to deny that I was his child. He wouldn't admit it until one of my brothers kicked the shit out of him. My mum was in St. Luke's Lunatic Asylum. They probably don't call it that. Probably call it something like St. Luke's Home for the Mentally Challenged. Something like that. She was in and out for 30 years. Kept trying to kill herself. They gave her shock treatment, with a rubber in her mouth. Gave her tranquilizers. For 30 years. Well, it turned out in the end she had postnatal depression. She had 8 miscarriages after my sister and me. She was misdiagnosed and mistreated for all that time. Someone should sue the NHS for that. It was because of all that me and my sister went to the kids' home. It was great, the kids' home. Right out in the countryside. The staff were all quite upper class, kind and all that. I don't think it was like the kids' homes you get over here. You hear all these stories. We used to walk 3 or 4 miles to get to the bus stop for school, there and back, every day. My dad walked out when I was 3 or 4, and my mum wore a wedding ring and until the day she died. But she threw her engagement ring into the lake. I did think about finding that ring, but it's a fucking big lake. Fuck me, we were poor. I don't remember my mum ever making us a meal. We were always going round to a cousin's or a friend's. There was always a place for me at a friend's table. His family kept a place ready for me, just in case. And my mum gave me the same Christmas present 4 years running. I'd get it Christmas morning, and on Boxing Day it disappeared. Then I'd get it back again next Christmas. My granny and great-granny died within 3 or 4 days of each other. And that was Christmas too. Why does everything bad happen at Christmas? For my mum, Christmas wasn't a time of joy. It was a time of sadness. Everything when I was a kid belonged to Protestants. Couldn't get a job, the police, the voting system. People didn't vote because why would they vote for a system that wasn't for them? Why would we vote for a British system? In Lurgan, there's a street where all the shops on one side are Catholic and on the other side all Protestant. Every time there was a riot, people used to lob bricks from one side of the road to the other. Where I lived was a huge estate with IRA flags, the Kilwilkie estate. As kids, we were told to go up to soldiers and spit on them. Soldiers are not going to hit a child. We always knew where the police were or where the army were. People used to bang bin lids on the ground, like an early warning system. The IRA used to walk around our estate all in black with balaclavas, holding these machine guns. If we had a problem, we would go to them. We wouldn't go to the police. We'd go to the IRA. They used to patrol at night. They were all men from the estate, but we didn't know who they were. One time, it would have been when I was about 9, 10, I was outside talking to the postman when this black taxi started coming up the street. The funny thing about it was, the people all came out before it even happened. They all came out to their houses to watch. So they must have known, you know. So I was talking to the postman and this taxi was driving up the street. Then when it came close to us, they shot a hole in the middle of his forehead. Later they said he used to be police. Someone must have found out about him. I saw bodies in the tunnel. People were scraping them up off the floor with shovels, like strawberry jam. I got blown up in a car bomb. I remember they told us not to touch it, the car. It had been there for months. We used to sell car batteries. That's why we were looking at the car in the first place. You know, to get the battery. My friend went to open the bonnet. I told him not to touch it, but he did. It all happened in slow motion. I can still see him now. I can see him off the ground, arms spread out, like an angel in a ball of fire. He was at the front of the car, and I was at the passenger door. I could see it all. It was like time stood still. I could see everything happening. He was travelling backwards, and I was travelling backwards at the same time. but I was watching him as we went. It was like I was more concerned about him. I saw the car bonnet come flying off, and I could see its trajectory. And even before it happened, I knew it would go right through his head. And it did. It took the top of his head off. He was in the hospital for 2.5 months. When he came out, he looked like Frankenstein. No bolts, but with all these staples holding his head together. When I was 18 and I was first here, I was on the way home and I got lost. So I asked the policeman, and he tried to arrest me under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, because I asked for directions to Finsbury Park. That was one of my first experiences in London and with the police. But the end is the beginning and the beginning is the end, like the snake that eats itself. What's it called? The Ouroboros. And I actually died once. I was only 3 or 4 years old. I was given the last rites. And I died. Do you know that when you're given the last rites, you can't be confirmed? So when I was 12 or so, the bishop said to me, I couldn't get confirmed because I'd had the last rites. I remember seeing the light. I remember feeling welcomed. And I didn't want to go. But since then, I've thought I wished I had have gone. There is a light, and you're drawn towards it. I was just a child. I didn't know about religion. But there's a great feeling of welcome. My granddad was religious. He used to get up at 5 or 6 every morning just to go to church. I remember he had a big white Bible. It was all gold on it, you know, expensive. I loved all the pictures in it. I don't remember the words. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe in the Bible. The Bible is just a story written by a man, worshipping Jesus as if he's a god and he's not. But I do believe in God. I've got no choice but to believe. I've got no choice.